Master Al Guinee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on. We're in a real just stream of podcasts right now. Andrea and I have done, almost one a day for the last several days. I think I'm doing another one tomorrow. So I hope I can still give you the full force of the podcast here in my brain. But I feel like a star today, I'll be honest. We were driving out here. Last night I made Andrea drive me home from the other podcast so that I could eat dinner. And then this morning I made her drive me here so that I could take a phone call. And then we had Jujitsu, and then she set everything up. So we just came in here and sat down and started doing it. I'm feeling like a king right now.
It's kind of rock star treatment right there.
It is.
Yes.
You've got to get a good woman in your corner to just help you take care of things when you need. And I like to think I do the same for her when it's her on the busy, chopping block. But it's been a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of Jiu-Jitsu lately, man.
Oh, man. Yes.
I still do a lot, and I still don't do nearly as much Jiu-Jitsu as you. You're here twice as much as I am.
I have a lot less to do than you, though, so it's okay,
Yeah, but I hear you're going for another job. You don't have to talk about it, but you have so many jobs already, and you're looking for another one.
We were just talking earlier. I only do 3 things. Like I spend time at home with my wife. I come here and do jiu-jitsu, and I referee. Mm-hmm. But that takes up a lot of time. But there are gaps in my day, and I hate gaps in my day. Like when I leave here until I come back later on tonight, be a couple hours where I don't have anything going on. It drives me crazy.
Really?
So I would like to, plus I feel bad because since I retired, which is almost a year now, gosh, it's gone by fast. Mm-hmm. I've technically been living off my wife. I get paid to do nothing. Mm-hmm. And now she's the only one in the family working, and I feel so bad. So I feel like I should be doing something, like earning something, So I'm gonna find something. I keep looking. I'd like it to be in security, law enforcement, teaching, something that I know how to do. So I'll get it. I'll find something. Yeah.
I have the same thing as you, where there are times, and I go through phases where I can't sit still. I need to have something going on. Right now, it's not an option. Like this week or last week in town here, I've got so many things that always seem to get shifted to the last week. But then I like sitting still sometimes. I think it's nice every now and then. But why do you think it is that you don't like doing it? Is it that like hard charging military and law enforcement background, you just can't have open space?
Well, for having worked for 43, 44 years, I joined the Air Force when I was 18, and I just went strong from there. I'm used to, like my last few years in the police department, I would go to work. I'd work from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'd get changed. I'd come here, and I train from, 6:30 till 8:30. Then I'd go home, and then I'd get something to eat, start the whole cycle again. And it's, you get used to that. You get in that cycle, and it's hard to, now when I have nothing to do, I feel like I should be doing something. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get to the point where I accept not having something to do. That's my biggest fear, is that, because now sometimes I find myself just sitting around, and I feel guilty, like I'm supposed to be doing something. I should be doing something. And that's the balance. And that's so hard. It's so difficult to deal with. I didn't think it was going to be that hard. I thought retirement was going to be cool. I just be retired and just do whatever I want. But it's been very stressful, more stressful than working, So, yeah.
Well, they say about retirement that you need to have something to do afterwards. Like, it's actually weird. There's all these stats about people who retire and don't have any hobbies. Their life has been their job, and their health declines immediately. Like, you have to have things to do. Yeah. We're all built to wake up and like have a purpose every day. It's really difficult to imagine not.
Yes.
Even if relaxation is the purpose. I think even if I'm going to take time off, it's very purposeful. And now, frankly, that we hunt, time off just means I'm on a hunting trip. I'm fully engaged in something else. But I do think it's important to have things to do, but it didn't always come naturally to me. I think I had to learn that. But is there something about, what we were talking last night with Chris Bennett, and I had Chris and Adam Lane and Kyle on the podcast, and we just, had a little chat session. I don't really know what we talked about because I got very hammered. But we were talking a little bit about how the military almost can ease that anxiety in life because someone else is answering the question of what are you doing with your day?
Yes.
Is there something to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, your day is very structured.
Right.
You know exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and same thing with law enforcement. I know, or for years, I knew I was going to get there when my day started, go out on the street, go out on patrol. I used to teach at the academy, so as soon as I got to work, there were going to be students that need to be taught something, and so everything was very structure oriented. And my absolute goal was when I retired to teach Jiu-Jitsu and make some money teaching Jiu-Jitsu. Not the best career if you're going to try to make some money. So I got to find something to fill that void.
Sure.
Yeah. And when I first retired, I thought I had something, but the pandemic was in full gear. So it was working at home, and I wasn't used to being at home working. I was used to going somewhere else. So
Right.
that just about drove me crazy. And then it involved calling people on the phone. I was doing background investigations for some of the smaller police agencies, and I had to call people on the phone, and I don't like talking on the phone. So everything, I was trying to get used to it, but I just couldn't do it. Maybe now I could try it,
Yeah.
but that initial 2 months, it was driving me crazy just being at home. I shouldn't be at home. I should be doing something.
That's wild.
Yes.
You and I could not be more opposite on that one. I have only ever worked from home. I've had little office jobs. They were mostly through college and side jobs and things. But as soon as I had my own real career, it's all been work on my own and work from home.
Yeah.
And part of what is going to be so tiring for us this week is just the fact that I'm out. Just the fact that I don't get to go home and go grab a shower like I really want right now to Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm out. And I really love being at home. I love cooking all day and just take your time, do whatever you need to do. I find that so much better, but I can understand that if you've been doing a different thing for your whole career, it'd be hard to.
Yeah, it's been the hardest. The hardest thing is,
Pull it off, yeah.
being at home, because before, when I was working, I went home and I ate and I watched TV.
Yeah.
So I was eating and watching TV, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to feel like I'm out doing something.
Yeah.
So that adjustment is difficult. To stay at home, and it sounds like you have a routine. You know what you're going to do. You have things that you love, and it's been tough. It's probably the hardest thing when I retired was just getting used to, I have time. What should I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I was just always rushing. If I wasn't doing something, I was driving to get there. And then when I got there, then I was driving home, go home, grab something to eat real quick, get showered, get ready, go to sleep, wake up, start the cycle all over again. So, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't think I could do that now. I've gotten so used to the other way of living, and you're right, like I have control over my day. So if Andrea and I want to go to the archery range that day, cool. I'm going to do all my work first thing when I first wake up. We'll get it done, and I'll save a couple hours to go do that. That's always been the thing for me. So I like doing things. It's not like I want to sit home and just sit around, but the fact that I am home makes me like a lot faster.
Yeah.
I don't have that commute time.
Yes.
I don't have to rush every meal that I eat. It's just different.
Yeah.
But one place I know I can agree with you on is the teaching element. And I didn't think that I would ever enjoy teaching anything at all. It's not my forte. I'd rather just do something myself than teach someone else how to do it. But jiu-jitsu has been an interesting one for me because the more I engage in it, the more I'm so happy when a new guy walks in and I'm like, I can show you that.
Yeah.
I do know that. Yeah. It's a great feeling teaching jiu-jitsu. I actually really look forward to the time where I have enough under my literal belt that I can go and teach, some of these techniques. It's a wonderful thing sharing this.
It is, and jiu-jitsu is so, I don't know the word, dynamic, diverse. It's something that people don't know when they come here what they're getting into, and to be able to show them, just something simple like a hip escape, shrimping. You feel so accomplished when you watch them do it, and it gives you a reward that some other teaching doesn't give you. But this, and you can see the growth in a person every day they come here, and I enjoy teaching. I started teaching when I was in the military, and I always like to be challenged by difficult subjects. So that's why Jiu-Jitsu is so cool to teach, is because it's not easy. It's probably one of the tougher things people will do in their life. And that's why so many people get to a certain level and just leave. So, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that last night too.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's okay or not to leave once you get that blue belt. We couldn't decide.
I'm not the one to comment on that, because I just keep showing up. And, I started in 2004, I think. So it's coming up on 18 years now. So I just keep showing up, and nobody's thrown me out yet. So I'm just going to keep showing up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you were training when you were still in law enforcement too,
yes.
Which is such a big push. And I think anybody who understands anything about jiu-jitsu should be getting behind. There's all sorts of programs all over. I've met different law enforcement officers who come in and train on scholarship as a part of programs that are pushing to get everybody to their purple belt as a cop, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, living my day-to-day life. It has already calmed me down in any sort of confrontation with another human being.
Yeah.
Just calms the confrontation. I just feel, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I've talked about that a lot on the show before. Can't imagine if my job was to go be in regular confrontational situations, and how much calmer that could help your thought process become.
Definitely. And that's always the avenue that I would explain to some of the younger officers when they start. It's like, it's about learning to go hands-on, but it's learning to control your emotions. You feel your confidence level goes up, and you feel like you can talk to this person, and whatever they call it now, de-escalation. You can calm them down, and absolutely, I'm in my perfect world, all the law enforcement officers would get trained in jiu-jitsu. Now, having 3 sons who are in law enforcement, I've realized that life gets in the way. All 3 of my sons have trained jiu-jitsu. They've had children, and they have families now. So, it's an ebb and flow. It's tough this is, as you know, this is.
Oh, audio's gone. Yeah. Burchak did the same thing. That's okay. Just plug it back in.
And go. What you find out is that life gets in the way, and for us, this is a difficult thing. We come here almost every day, 3-4 times a week, and that's hard to do, and it challenges you, and it takes a lot of time, commitment, and some people have other commitments too.
Right.
So I wish I had an answer to that. I've tried to let officers know that they can come in anytime they want to and train with me. It's okay. I won't charge them to train. I started implementing classes at the police academy, where if you wanted to come train, you could come train. And we got 5 or 6 people, but we never got the big crowds. And again, it's just, people have families, and it's frustrating to me. I would like to see my sons training jiu-jitsu, and they're actually pretty good at it too. But families having to take care of their kids, get their kids to volleyball or basketball or whatever. My oldest son's got 2 kids learning to drive now. That's stressful and tough to do. So. I know he wants to train, and it's just the time, finding the time. Yeah.
Well, I think it's probably just like any 2 people who would be having this conversation about whatever sport they like.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't believe everybody doesn't frisbee golf.
Why
doesn't everybody frisbee golf?
Yeah.
And we'd look at them like, all right, But there are some universal things that this, I think, gives to people, and particularly I think gives to men. Obviously, that's the only experience I can speak to, is what it's done for me as a man, and a place that I don't think we have societally set up in any other way. There's no place to engage with the fact that testosterone is kind of an aggressive drug, and we're all pumped full of it all the time. And so what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Is it going to manifest itself in a bad situation, when your adrenaline's going and then you don't know anything?
Yeah.
Or can you let it manifest itself in here and then it'll calm you down everywhere else?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's such a valuable thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that you could say the same thing about disc golf. I'm sure disc golf is a lot of fun.
I'm sure the people who do disc golf could say that about it.
They might be able to. Like, I break my disc when I get mad and then I go home and I don't break anything, I don't know. Why is that a thing in golf? Everybody's always breaking their clubs.
Yes. Yeah.
These things are expensive.
Oh, man.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. I don't understand golf that much. You know, I just, 4 hours of my time I could be doing other things.
Well, I'm with you. My new favorite thing is we've swapped like archery for golf. So there's that great range here in Tucson. There's great ranges all over the place where you can go out for 2 hours and you're walking through a course. It's the same thing as golf. We're trying to hit the X every time, and it's just a similar process. But like at the same time, you're kind of learning a valuable skill and you're getting a very hard workout. And so, I think there's some other substitutes that are pretty cool. Not to rag on golf.
Well, I'll tell you, I did play golf for a while. When I was in the Air Force, I realized that if you played on the intramural golf team, they would let you off early on Wednesday to go play golf.
There you go.
So you didn't have to work. So I joined the golf team.
Nice.
And so every Wednesday I went and played golf. I was horrible at it. The highest handicap you can have is 36. I think that's my handicap is. But because I swung a golf club like a baseball player.
Yeah.
But I did play for a while.
Yeah, fair enough. I should apologize briefly to the listeners. We're at 10th Planet Tucson right now in the back room, and we have a little aluminum door here that kicks up a little when the wind starts going, and it is a windy day in Tucson.
Yes.
We've had some kind of crazy weather around here, but I'd still rather be here than anywhere else in the country right now. Man, they are getting snow everywhere, and they just had that big cold front move through, and we were complaining that it was cold. It was like 55 here, like that's cold for here. It's just the best place to come in the winter. Are you from Tucson? Are you Tucson born and raised?
No, I was born and raised right outside of New York City in Westchester County. Most of my time was spent in one of the city's White Plains, which I think is the largest city in Westchester County. I grew up there. My dad got remarried when I was in high school, and we moved to Connecticut, which was okay. Mm-hmm. It was all right. And then I joined the Air Force. As soon as I graduated high school, I joined and left. I wanted to see the world when I joined the Air Force, and my first assignment was Plattsburgh, New York, which is almost in Canada. I didn't know you could go in New York that far and still be in a state. So it was like a stone's throw from Canada, and it was the coldest place on earth.
Wonderful.
Yes. I used to work on the flight line, and I remember it being like minus 30. Oh. And I was walking around because I had all my gear on, and nothing was exposed except my eyes, and it was cold.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Air Force rewarded me because my next assignment was Alaska.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice sunny spot.
Oh, yes.
Tropical.
Yeah, tropical weather, yeah.
Did you get to go to anywhere that you wanted to go in your time?
I did. I did learn after a while how to control my assignments. My best assignment that I had was I got a 4-year assignment to Berlin, Germany, and it was when the wall was up too. So it was like very unique, and I spent 4 years there, and then I started volunteering. I got into instructing, and I was what's known as a military studies instructor, leadership, communication. So I spent 4 years in San Bernardino, California, at the Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, and I would teach new NCOs how to be NCOs, how to communicate, how to lead, how to, discipline, that kind of stuff. And I did that for a while, and then I ended up here because I volunteered to be what's known as a first sergeant. A first sergeant is it's hard to explain because they're not normal in everyday life. But the first sergeant is in charge of all of the enlisted people in a unit. I was responsible for their health, morale, and welfare. Mm-hmm. So I would make sure that they were all well taken care of. Like if they had an issue, they'd come see me. If they were having problems at work, they'd come talk to me. I was kind of like their mom, their dad, their brother. You know, I would deal with anything from I had an airman walk in and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling. I'm thinking about killing myself."
Oof.
You know, to somebody coming in, "Hey, I can't pay my bills," or "My wife needs a job," or and that was my job to deal with those problems.
Mm-hmm. So you had to be the dad.
Yes,
to everybody.
yeah. I had to be like the adult to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
in both the good situations and the bad
and the bad situations. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I got to reward people. You know, I ran programs where Airman of the Month, those kind of things. So it was an interesting job, and it actually, I really enjoyed it. I really did. It was good because I was always helping people and trying to make sure that they had someone they could come to if they needed help. So, and I spent my last 7 years doing that, and I retired from here at Davis Monthan in Tucson. And for some reason, after I retired, I decided I wanted to be a cop. Mm-hmm. And so, while I was retiring from the Air Force, I joined the Tucson Police Department. I don't know how that got into my head that at 40 years old I wanted to be a cop, but I did it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a transition.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a different thing entirely. I mean, what kind of work were you doing in law enforcement? I mean, were you I'm going to use old language here, but were you working a beat? Were you out there patrolling and walking around?
Well, when you join this was the Tucson Police Department. When you join the Tucson Police Department, your first 3 years, you're going to be working in patrol on a beat in a sector of the city. So I did that for 3 years, and again, just like in my military career, I wanted to start teaching, and so I volunteered to go out to the police academy and teach defensive tactics, driving, those kind of skills. So I did that for maybe 2 years, and then I realized that they had an assignment in the police department called a bicycle officer, and I was like, you know what? That sounds like a pretty good job. I could work out while they pay me, and so I volunteered for that, and I did that for a couple of years. Actually, Manny Flores, who has an academy on the northwest side, he and I were partnered up. So you had two Jiu-Jitsu guys riding around on bicycles in the west side of Tucson. So, I really enjoyed that just because the fact that it was active, I was outside, I was doing something healthy, and then I got promoted to sergeant. And just like anything in life, when you get promoted, you drop down to the bottom, And again, once you get promoted to sergeant, you end up back in patrol with a patrol squad, and that's what I did. Right. So,
similar to the Jujitsu promotion, where
exactly.
you get that new belt and then you're just at the bottom of the totem pole again.
You go drop back down. Exactly.
I never felt like I was at the top of any totem pole as a white belt. I still felt like I was at the bottom, and now I'm back at the bottom again. So that's tough.
Yeah.
It feels that way the whole time, doesn't it?
It does. When I got my black belt, it seemed like every roll got tougher, and it just. I mean, I think it's good. I think that it's a way you challenge yourself. You get promoted, and now you have to face new challenges. But every belt you get, people go at you harder.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, I think that's very true. And even I had a little good hazing the day I got my blue belt, and there were a bunch of black and brown belts in the room, and they just said, "Oh, you're blue belt now, all right." And that's probably one of the harder days I've had in jiu-jitsu. They didn't hold back on anything with me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of fun too. I tend to think, it's all about your attitude in that bad roll, that roll where you're just struggling and suffering, and that guy is you're just tap, 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 tap.
Yeah.
And it's like, will you get back up? And when I see that last, there's 10 seconds left on the clock, and I'm like, let's go back in.
Yeah.
Let's slap hands and go again. I know you can sub me in 10 seconds again. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the only thing that has been sort of redeeming for me to help make me better. But we were talking about teaching. This thought came to my mind. I wonder what you think about it.
Yeah.
The fun thing about traveling it used to suck. It's become fun now. Is that I get everybody's different take on different techniques. And for me, I always feel like the one thing about jiu-jitsu that I want to see more of is people recognizing different body types.
Yes.
Because I don't have the same body type as most people I've learned from. I've learned from big, strong dudes. I've learned from short, muscly guys like Burchak. I've learned from, corn-fed wrestlers out in Nebraska and Kansas City and places like that. So I don't think I've had instruction from a dude who is quite as lanky and long as I am, And so as you go about that, you always have to adapt what you're doing for your body type.
Yes.
Because not everything's going to work the same for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite things when we have new guys come in because, frankly, eventually they may become big, burly dudes because this sport can do that to people. Yes. But a lot of people come in here kind of skinny and lanky, and I have the chance to show them, like, you're long, so do this, Yep. And people don't always get that right off the bat. I certainly didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I know what positions I should not be in.
Yeah.
That I'll stay in all day if you get me to that position because I'm too long to escape it,
Yeah, I think that going along with what you're saying, the first few years you're trying to find where you fit in. What's your niche in jiu-jitsu? I started when I was 43. And so not only did I have I'm new to jiu-jitsu stuff, I had to realize that I'm older than most of the people training.
Yeah. So
I had to find out what style works for me because, like Anthony, he's so a great wrestler. He's so fast. That's not me, So I had to. It took me until maybe I was a purple belt till I figured out this is the way I have to do this. I have to be slow, methodical. I can't rush through techniques. I'm not going to be able to outmuscle people. I'm not going to be faster than people. I'm not going to be able to out wrestle a wrestler. So I had to find out what works for me.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I ended up at 10th Planet.
Right, because you started as a Gracie Baja in the Guinee, right?
Yeah, I was at Gracie Baja and I love it there. I still go back there and train 2-3 times a week.
Do you really?
Yeah.
On top of everything you do here?
Yes.
Good God.
Yeah. And I went on vacation. I know you'll find this hard to believe. I go on jiu-jitsu vacations.
Okay.
So
I don't find that hard to believe. I want to talk about it. That sounds fun.
Okay, cool. So I went on a jiu-jitsu vacation and I met this young man. I apologize if he listens to this, Jimmy Doolin, and he probably was like 18 at the time I met him, and I rolled with him, and he just tore up my legs. Everything he did, he was attacking my legs, and I thought I was okay at leg locks, and so that was one of those things where I was like, I need to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I already knew Anthony, I knew 10th Planet, and so I said, that's where I'm going to learn this stuff. So,
nice.
Yeah, and I feel that I'm pretty good at leg stuff now. I feel like I am, but there's always somebody who's going to show me that I still have room to grow.
That's wild. It's
Yes.
a whole different side of the sport, and especially coming in as a new person, you're going to just get your legs under you in terms of like, I know how to pass
Yes,
guard,
yes.
and that's what side control is, that's what mount is. You start to learn some transitions, some escapes, and then all of a sudden someone grabs your leg, and you're like, I don't even know what you're doing down there, but I know my knee's in trouble.
Yes.
Anthony Louie here at the
Yes.
gym is the one that, man, he's fun to roll with and also not fun because he grabs my legs and then I can't do anything.
And he's so tight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I go to pull away and expecting to get space, and it's like, this is bad.
Yeah, sometimes you get deeper into
Yes,
whatever they're
yes.
setting up by trying to get out of it.
Yep.
And no, that does tend to happen a lot. And so now you think like, I finally got a handle on this. And then there's it's like, no, you're forgetting about 50% of your body here.
Yeah.
Let's learn this. I try to mess around with it as much as I can. Honestly, I think it's important at the stage I'm at now to engage with all of it. So
Yes.
to recognize I'm starting to make myself start standing in every roll so that even if I get taken down, okay, I figured that one out. Now I know what that feels like to get taken down like that. And then if someone starts going for the legs, I go, okay, we'll play the leg game. I'll try to either escape or start threatening something that I know, because if you wait too long, I think it'd be really hard to add into your to your game. And then there's guys who I've rolled with who, if they grab your legs, you're in trouble. But if you can get past the leg stuff, they don't really know their fundamentals all that well.
Yeah.
So you have to be so well-rounded to keep up. What a sport that is, that challenges you to act like that. You can't just have your strengths. You also have to be strong at your weaknesses.
And again, I say this jokingly, but I mean it. It's like, that's why I keep showing up the next day, is because something that we did in a roll that you did to me, I'm like, hold on a second. I gotta figure this out. And so I show up the next day and try to figure it out. Just like in the class we were just in with the knee bars and stuff, it's so cool to me, but I want to learn more.
Right.
And so I'll be back tonight with us. We'll be back tonight, and we'll start practicing that stuff. Yeah, I the leg game has revolutionized the way I think about jiu-jitsu. And if you asked me maybe 4 years ago, I wouldn't have known that the toe hold is going to be such a cool thing for me to do all the time.
Yeah. But it works.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It works, and it's also and it's working for your body type, and the fact that you don't play your game really fast or super aggressive because foot's right there, and people fall into it. I'm so proud of Andrea for engaging with this sport because it's, it makes sense for a young dude to get into this sport who likes podcasting and listens to Joe Rogan and all of the standard shit. Like, of course I'm going to get into jiu-jitsu.
Yes. Yeah.
My big thing with her was always self-defense is super important to me. Yeah. And there's no way I want her going about the world to have to experience some trauma because she's not aware of something. And so when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I just brought enough home that it was like, if someone were to grab you like this, here's what you can do. Mm-hmm. And that was the start of it. And then slowly, as she watched me continue to progress, and mostly because I dragged her to podcasts like this and dragged her to classes to film me and stuff, and she was like, all right, you know what? I'll give it a shot. Yeah. And I was kind of nervous here in Tucson. I love 10th Planet Tucson, but I recognize it's a pretty competitive school. Yeah. We have some absolute beasts who are here to become good at competing. And so I didn't know how she'd fit in with the women here and with that culture. And she's made just great friends here. I mean, everybody's so welcoming. Yeah, that's so important. I mean, I think it shows the class of the school is that you can come here, and jiu-jitsu itself is by nature is very violent and active, and the people are going to take care of you. They know, and they're very helpful to you. You go to some schools and they just prey on people, and they wonder why people leave. It's I've experienced that where, when you start, you're just their way of proving that they know more than you do. And here it's not like that. You can roll with somebody and they're helping you through the whole roll. I mean, they're making it tough, but they're not doing what you, and in your mind, like, I think they could do more to me than yes. Actually, Andrew was kind of mad at me the other day, a little mad, rightly so, because she was like, you go harder with me than anybody else. And I was like, maybe that's because I know you can handle that because I've rolled with you since you started. Or maybe I'm being bad and I need to learn, of course, how to recognize how much I weigh and everything like that. We were talking last night. I remember being in high school and going from like 5'8" to 6'4" like overnight one day. And so I never really feel like a tall, big guy ever. Apparently I am. People say I am. So cool. Yeah. I still feel like a small child. Yeah. And so I have to understand my own body and how much more strength I have when I'm doing something. But the fact that you can roll with upper belts as a new white belt and the way they just flow and play is unlike anything else. It's because it's dynamic teaching. Yeah. There's this thing that shit, where did this come from? Andrea, where were they talking about people talking to their kids just a level above them? Was it on a podcast or something we were listening to? It must have been. It had to have been. Okay, so there's some concept that I was hearing about. Man, I wish I knew who was talking about this. Yeah. Where parents don't even recognize they're doing this, but when they are teaching their kid to speak, they're dynamically teaching them by always talking just a little bit more advanced than that kid can handle. So most they can pick up, and then you're pushing them. And apparently it's just a very human thing. You just do it naturally.
Yeah.
And I think jiu-jitsu has been just like that. You're just very naturally, people are giving you just a little bit more than you can handle when you have a great partner to roll with. And so you learn so much faster.
Well, that's the way I approach my kids and my grandkids too. I get frustrated when I see people treating them like kids. I mean, they are kids, but I talk to them, like you said, a little bit above where I want them to be. So they're learning to grow up. They're learning to expand their minds. And that's same thing when I'm in jiu-jitsu. There's some place you go and they just teach you a move, and that's it. And now it's up to you to figure out, well, when do I use it? And I've adapted my teaching to, I like to start from the stand-up, the takedown. Here's where you get to that position, and now here's what you do. And I think that's helped my instruction, and I think it's helped the students as well.
Yeah.
And you'll hear, like we were talking about leg locks, well, you shouldn't teach the white belt leg locks. Why not? You know, I mean, they're going to become a blue belt where straight ankle locks and knee bars are allowed, and then they're going to be behind the power curve from that group that has learned that, and they're going to, and you never, it seems like you never catch up. So I agree with you. You should always, don't assume that you have to start down here. You can start high and then adjust as you go.
Right.
I mean,
and you're usually, I think in general, going to have your toughest rolls with people who are just a little better than you.
Yes.
Because I think there's a reverse to this, which is that I had an instructor tell me the best way to learn jiu-jitsu, the fastest way to learn jiu-jitsu is to be practicing your stuff on someone, again, who's just a little worse than you. Because if someone's just a little worse than you can actually finish that submission. You can actually get to that position. You have a chance. So you're both like doing this favor for each other all the time, and everybody just comes up together. And I think that it must be really hard to live in one place and go to the same gym and watch the tiny progress every day. And I am really lucky that I get to go to the same gym a year later.
Yes. And
so I'm seeing everything in a step. Because the next gym we go to, I'm sure we'll be back in Kansas City this year. I haven't seen those guys since over a year ago, right? And so when I go there, I'm going to see that step. And then when I go back to Florida, I'm going to see the next step. I think that that's a real benefit. And I think the more people can travel and go to different gyms, you're just setting bookmarks mentally for yourself. Last time I was here, I just was smashed all day. This time I was defending myself. I wasn't winning, but I was defending myself. And the next time I was smashing a couple people, If you can give yourself any sort of linear progression, like anything to hang on to with this sport, I think that's incredibly valuable.
Well, I mean, same thing for me. I mean, if I travel, I'll stop at the gym and I use that as a measuring stick, And people I don't know. How does this work against people I don't know? And when they have open mats in Tucson, I'll go over there and, I could approach it one of two ways. I can avoid it because I don't want to know, but I want to know. I want people I saw when I was a blue belt, and now they're brown and black belts. I'm like, okay, I measure myself, and I can judge my improvement.
Yeah. And it gives me it gives me a lot to strive for, because I have these instructors who have invested their time in me and welcomed me to their gyms and did my podcast and all sorts of things. I don't want to show up and disappoint them because I haven't learned anything. I really want to show up and be like, remember me last year? Watch this. It's a really good feeling.
Yes.
So the travel in jiu-jitsu, so that's why I'm not surprised that you have jiu-jitsu vacations. I think the Globetrotters thing, I really want to go to one of those at some point when that time's out, right? And of course, Heather Raftery goes and teaches with them. I think she's in the Caribbean right now doing that.
Yes, I saw it, like cool. St. Barth or somewhere.
Fancy.
Yes. I was like looking at the pictures, like, why aren't I there?
I know, and they're always like in Iceland doing ice baths and stuff. Like, it seems so great.
Yes.
What a collection of people. So, and so many gyms are really welcoming to travelers. So I know some people listen to this podcast because they're also fellow travelers. And I can tell you that if you're worried about starting jiu-jitsu and traveling, it might suck for the first 3 months, 6 months, but that's going to happen even if you're not traveling.
Yeah.
And after that, it becomes just so much fun. And I even love the fact that I get to be like a temporary friend to everybody.
Yeah.
Because you never get tired of the guy that's here for a month and then he leaves, and you don't have to see him for another year. You don't have to deal with his bullshit every day. You know, if I was always here filming and stuff like we've been doing, you know, Burchak could be like, "Can you guys stop filming everything?"
Not again.
You know, right? But because he doesn't have to see me again for another year, it's okay. And I think that's the same for any friendship. I found it's strangely a better friendship.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
kind of around.
It's like when you show up. I mean, I'm excited. Like, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, where was I a year
Yeah.
ago? You know, too. And I can give a bookmark to other people, which is fun. Probably not to people who are already better than me, but people who are in this gym and are the new people this year. If I've caught a roll with them and was, you know, so much better than them to whatever level, next year when I come back, I know that gap shrinks because I won't have gotten as better as they will. And so I can be something nice for them too. So
it's also humbling because when I go on my vacation or I go to visit a school somewhere, I mean, I'll go up against another black belt and they're so good. I'm like, I want to be that good. I want to do that. And they just kind of manhandle you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, I need to get better at this. And it's one of the few things where you can actually just in a 6-minute roll, you can judge your progress, you know, and where you're at. Yeah. It's amazing.
There's so many things that we do in our lives and in our careers that are just not linear. This sport isn't linear either. Chris Bennett last night said it's parabolic because he's a math guy.
It sounds like something he would say.
And it's true, but where we see like a level of progression where you just keep going, because life is just a mixed bag. It's all over the place, and you're jumping from one thing to the next, and you never know, am I getting better at this thing?
Exactly.
So to have a sport that gives you any sort of through line to your life has been great so far. And I've got to imagine that process just keeps going as you keep moving up and keep becoming better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And knowing yourself better, knowing your own game better.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I've started. You are impossible when I take your back to choke, and I know people. I know you're quite proud of that, and people are very aware of it around here.
Yeah.
And last year I didn't have anything else to try. And what's been fun this year is when I roll with you, I know I don't want to be on your back.
Yes.
Even if I get to that, you know, technical mount or whatever it is, and you're ready to take the back, I'm looking for anything else. You know, don't make me take his back.
Well, and to me that's awesome because I've noticed it too. You know, your attacks have grown, and it causes you to say, okay, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's to a point now where it's like, it's not just, you know, every year I feel different. Yeah. It's in between rolls. Like I was rolling with Willie today.
Yeah.
Who's a brown belt here at 10th Planet. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. If I have time for it, people will have him on. That'll be a wild one. If not this year, we'll get him next year. Where was I going with this? Oh, so I was rolling with him today.
Yeah.
And basically every submission that he would catch me in, the next roll we started, I was like, okay, you can't take that same pathway because he'll just do that again.
Yes.
So let's try a different pathway. And then you start trying pathways you're bad at.
Yeah.
But then, hey, a risk, you know, worked out. Okay, maybe that's something. And so you really do, you can learn how to play this chess game faster and faster for the further you go.
And you brought up Willie. Rolling with Willie has made me grow my game as well because I'll get him in an arm bar, and he is the toughest person that I've rolled against the arm bar. So I had to come up with now, well, how am I going to defeat that? And so I have a technique now I call the Willie technique that I use to finish the arm bar. And well, it works on other people too. So it's grown my game. And that's what you get. You when you roll with all your teammates, they all have specific things that they're really good at, and it makes you have to adjust. Mm-hmm. And you know, you know, rolling with you have such great grips, you know, and
that's the second time I've heard that today, and I that surprises me. Willie said that during class. He was like, "Oh, you got a strong grip," and I was like, "No, I fucking don't." Do I really? Is that?
You when you latch onto my wrist, I kind of have to go, hey,
oh shit,
yeah, and
cool,
yeah, it helps me grow because I'll go and I'll enter a tournament and somebody will grab a hold of my wrist or grip me, and I've had people do better than that, and it it boosts my confidence.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that'll do that. One of the things in the gi that I'm very proud of is when I'm standing, I get good grips. And I went to do a super fight out of town, and right at the beginning, and this guy had a big resume, and I was kind of nervous rolling against him, and so I grabbed my grips for stand up as soon as we went in, and I gave a couple of tugs, and he said out loud, "Man, you're strong," and I was like, "Oh, hey,"
Yeah.
And then he pulled guard, and I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Definitely. So it's such a cool sport,
Well, you'd think. I mean, there are days where you can't handle the thought of going up against people who are so much better than you, and there are days when you show up to the gym and for whatever reason you are better than other people, and you get in roles and you get to win, which is very rare in my case, and you'd think that'd be what you seek all the time, and at first you kind of do because your ego is destroyed and you're just looking for anything to hang on to, but you start to find more and more. The better of a person you can go up against, the better you're becoming. It's the iron sharpens iron thing. And so I'd rather go to the gym with the really good guys.
I feel bad of that. I know there are people who avoid those tough roles. They only train with people who they know they can dominate or they are a little bit better than. And me, anybody. So the best black belts in the world, let's roll, I went when I was on vacation. Leandro Lowe showed up, and I'd never met him before, but I knew he was like a really great black belt, and I just walked up to him and said, "Hey, do you mind rolling with an old guy?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I rolled with him, and one of my proudest moments is I got my toe hold on him, and I could see him like take a gulp, like. And then he broke out of it, but I was like, "Hey, that made me feel good." I was like, Then he told me, and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Little victories. And I've been talking with Andrew about that too. When we go home after class, and we're always riding on the motorcycle afterward, and we're just freezing, but we're just kind of chatting on the intercoms. And I think something kind of clicked for her the other day, where it's hard when you start, and man, it's hard to leave at the end of the night and be like, "I just am so bad, and why is that person beating me like that?" And then. She started listing out kind of all the things that she did well. She was like, "Well, I did have that one escape." Mm-hmm. You have to hang on to those little victories. You have to be like, "I escaped that. Oh no, I actually did that technique from class. I fucked it up, but I got to the right position."
Oh yeah.
If you don't have anything to anchor onto, it's not good. And people who love talking about ego death and becoming incredibly humble, it's like, yeah, but if you don't hang on to anything in this sport, you won't last. Like you have to have something.
It definitely will separate people out who don't have that mental toughness, and they'll go on and do something else, maybe the frisbee golf or something.
Yeah. Oh, you just dissed frisbee golf. You just dunked on you, frisbee golf. No, I agree with you. I think that's true. Yep. So we also had in town here our bullpen submission series, which was a lot of fun, and we got to run the stream for that, and I've talked about it on the show before, but again, you can go to bullpen submission series YouTube channel that we set up. You can watch the live stream. It was just a great event.
Oh yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Yep.
You got to ref a few matches too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember which ones you were reffing for.
I
quite a few.
The first, I think I did about half of them. I did the combat jiu-jitsu one that because Anthony was in one. I stayed away from that one. I did the other one with I know Anders Ponce was in that one, and I did the last one with Austin and Jimmy House.
Right.
The big guys.
That was quite a fight.
Oh my gosh.
That was fantastic watching those guys do jiu-jitsu. And Jimmy House is just the Hulk. I mean, if you don't know who this guy is, look him up. He's just a massive dude.
Yes.
But he wasn't always, right? It was a full body transformation for him, I feel like. Didn't I see some before and after pic of him just getting incredibly strong?
Oh, he used to be bigger and more muscular, and then he went down a little. Yeah, he's always been a Hulk. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh yeah.
I've seen him deadlift 6 times his body weight or something like that.
I watched those videos and yeah, it's so impressive. Yeah.
Right. But then Austin Baker came in last minute and actually won the fight.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Everybody was really glad he stepped in because of the whole Pat Downey thing. And so it was great that he came out and he had a great performance too. And I think isn't he like ranked in IBJJF?
He is ranked in IBJJF. I've known him for years because he's a Gracie Baja black belt as well.
Oh, okay.
And
here in Tucson?
No, from up in the Phoenix area.
Okay.
Yeah, and great person, great jiu-jitsu. He's one of the coolest, most humble people till you get on the mat, and then like Jimmy, same thing. Very strong, very technical, and just a cool guy. And I've had the opportunity to be with him at some events and see him train, and just a great competitor. And both that was a great match because when you look at even it was amazing to me when they were doing the first shots of them together facing off. And I always known that Jimmy is big, and then Austin stood next to him, and he towered over him. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh man, this is going to be a fight." So yeah, it was great. Yeah, it
was a good fight, and just a good event in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you ref a lot of shit, don't you? Ref basketball too, like you among the list of things you do.
Well, I started out reffing many years ago when I was in the military. One of my bosses, Calvin Page, when we were in Germany, he said, kind of you're getting a little old to play these sports. You want to try reffing? And he said, well, they'll pay you. And I said, oh, okay.
What sports was that at the time?
He was a basketball ref, and he did like a lot of the intramural basketball that they had in the Air Force. And so I started reffing basketball. And as the years progressed, I picked up football. I did high school basketball, high school football. And baseball had always been my sport. I'd played for years, so I decided to umpire baseball, and I started doing that. So for almost 20-something years, I football, basketball, baseball, and I got pretty good in the baseball realm. I did some professional baseball. I used to be the fill-in umpire here in Tucson when the Sidewinders AAA team needed an umpire. They would always call me, which was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, you just get to umpire AAA baseball games, next level of the major leagues. I did junior college, some Pac-10 baseball, but I've been a football, basketball, baseball official for years. As we were talking, my life got a little bit busier between Jiu-Jitsu and now MMA reffing that I've added to that. I had to cut back, but I was pretty successful. I've reffed 5 Arizona high school football championships, 5 basketball championships, and 3 baseball championships. So it's pretty good. Yeah.
That is, it's a job I would never, ever want to have. When I talk about like, I'll never compete in jiu-jitsu, I really don't want to. I know I'm going to at some point. Oh, yeah. But this is not like that.
Oh, no.
Reffing? Oh. No way.
Oh, yeah.
Man. How do you handle just that pressure being on you? Like, where does that come from for you being willing to be like, you know what, I'm making my call?
When you start, it's really tough. I mean, nobody likes criticism, and you're getting criticism from everybody.
Yeah.
Players, coaches, fans.
Even maybe your other refs sometimes, although those I'm sure are more in private.
Sometimes there's a, like anything, there's a code that you talk to each other in private. You don't do it in the middle of the game or in a court. It's difficult. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot more bad stuff than good. Nobody ever comes up, very rarely they say, hey, great job. I realized that as I moved along in my football, basketball, and baseball career, once the coaches because players are constantly changing, once the coaches realized that I was okay at it, they started they knew they were going to get a quality game from me. Even if I messed up, they gave me a hard time, but they let it pass.
Well, because for the coach, they know, hey, sometimes it goes my way with this guy, sometimes it goes the other way.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, and you get a balance there. As a brand new guy, man, I can't
imagine. It's like anything. It's like in Jiu-Jitsu. I tell people the first 6 months, if you last the first 6 months, you'll probably stay around for a while. Same thing with officiating. If you make it through the first few months, then you start to accept it. To me, basketball was always the hardest because everybody's right there.
Yeah.
And you can hear the fans criticizing you. Baseball, they're a little bit farther away. Football, they're way far away. But yeah, basketball is always tough because
it's a little faster paced too.
Yes.
In terms of making a call.
Oh yeah. Everything's split second. It's like calling balls and strikes in baseball. You don't have time to go, give me a second.
Yeah.
You gotta make 50-50 shot. You
Yeah.
know? In basketball as well, you've just got to stop playing and do what you got to do.
Right.
It's tough. It's like Jiu-Jitsu. It's not something that everybody will do. It's an unusual thing. Yeah. But I got pretty good at it, and I took a break from football, basketball, and baseball because I was just too busy. Mm-hmm. And this year I went back to doing basketball. And I tell everybody I keep getting older. The kids stay the same age, so it's tough.
Because you're still running just as fast up and down the court as they are.
Yes. I pride myself on my conditioning, so it's cool. I love doing it. The funniest story was when I went back this year to do basketball, I take like 3 years off. So we always start the season off with some preseason scrimmages. So I go to a scrimmage at this high school, and they had 3 teams there. And I knew all 3 coaches from when I was calling. And so I saw one of the coaches. He goes, "You're back." And I said, "Yeah, I decided to come back." He said, "Oh, we're so great to have you back." And I said, "This is my first any basketball in 3 years. I might make mistakes. Don't worry about it. Make as many mistakes as you want to. I'm just glad you're back." And I felt good that I'd gotten that much, respect that he's like, "Yeah, make a mistake if you want to." I didn't want to make any mistakes, but still, So
I was waiting for the but at the end of that story, but you made a call wasn't in his favor. And
I did.
I
like right in the first quarter, I blew one of the simplest things. I heard somebody call timeout, and there's certain specifics on who you can grant timeouts to, and I granted a timeout, and then I realized they did it wrong. And I looked at the other coach, and he's like, "That's all right, no big deal." And I was like, "Good, great." But I enjoy it, and MMA has been an experience. I started MMA a long time ago. And when I started, there was just one other guy in Arizona refereeing MMA. So for 3 or 4 years, we were the only 2. So we were at every event.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's popular, so everybody wants to be a referee. That's the biggest question I get. Well, how do I become an MMA referee? And I always ask them, "Have you refereed anything in your life?" "No." Well, you might want to start doing that. Do some wrestling or do jujitsu or something. So. But
go to a little league game.
Yeah,
and volunteer,
something.
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Learning, because I imagine that there's 2 halves of it, which is obviously the reffing itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the letting everything you're hearing roll right off your back, and you just keep moving and you stay focused.
That's the hardest part. Is you're hearing people criticize you and just continuing to want to do your best. It's tough. And then over my career, I've had plenty of times when I made mistakes, when I knew I made a mistake, and then there's always that moment when you've made a mistake, you have to regroup, and you still have the rest of the game or the rest of the whatever to call. So, there's been times where I've stopped fights, and I knew in my head that I stopped it too early. And there's been times where in my head I thought I may have stopped it too late. So, and in MMA, you're dealing with people potentially getting hurt. So, you want to be perfect.
Right.
And that's what I always tell people is I want to strive for perfection, but I'll settle for excellence, because no matter what you say, nobody's perfect.
Right.
But and my last fight in the UFC was the Jamel Hill fight, and it was tough because I felt like no matter what decision I made in that fight, I was going to get criticized. Mm-hmm. And depending on who you ask, some people think I messed it up, and I believe that I believe that I got it right. I always like to err on the side of the fighters. I didn't hear a tap. I didn't hear a verbal tap, and I knew that knowing what I know about Jiu-Jitsu, which I thought came in handy, I knew that his elbow, he hyperextended his elbow. It was in an arm bar. And I gave him the opportunity. I don't know what his record was at the time, but I think he had not lost a fight up to that point. And I said, hey, this kid's in a sport where he gets paid to win fights, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to go a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so, I took some criticism, but, you know, and it still affects me because I would never want to make a mistake, but I thought I did the right thing, and I got to live with it, you know?
It's an interesting one, and I kind of asked you if it would be something you'd be willing to talk about or not, and I don't even know what you're allowed to talk about or not, frankly, but, again, it's just like you can let the things roll off your back, the personal stuff roll off your back, and then you get nasty journalists who won't let it go because they have a headline that they can write up. And, you're one of my favorite people. You're one of the most welcoming people I've met in Jiu-Jitsu. I was brand new when I came here last time, and you welcomed me right in, and it's been the same. You're one of my favorite people here. And to see people saying nasty things, I was like, oh, that hurts, and I was feeling it with you.
Yeah.
But I also watched you during that fight, and I talked with Burchak and Willie about it because I was struggling to understand how does it really work because I've never been in an MMA fight.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but what I could tell is there was a moment where you sort of paused him for half a second. You went in there and you didn't get any feedback from Jamal, who was in that position. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem like he was doing anything. If anything, it sounded kind of like he told you he was fine or something.
Yes.
Like he sort of indicated he was all right. Yeah. And so you let them go. And I really tried to watch it for myself. I'm the type of person that I wanted to get the information for myself, make my own decision about it because I saw here's what these guys are saying. Yeah. Okay, and then there's YouTube videos of people doing freeze frames, and what they can do with freeze frames is they can stop it right there and say. And then they're telling you the story instead of you watching the actual fight, which is still on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, you can go watch it yourself, make up your own mind. Yeah. But what I learned from Burchak and Willie the other day really was that it is kind of the fighter's choice at a certain point. It is, and they were telling me all these stories, wild stories of people winning jiu-jitsu tournaments with broken arms that they tuck in their belt and they still go and they win and whether it was broken or not, he wasn't telling you whether it was or not. And so what do you do, man? Yeah. I don't envy you having to be in that position. And then, of course, afterward, everybody knows what happened. They're like, he should have done this because now, they're using the value of hindsight to try to make a judgment when it was your job in the moment and you had to actually synthesize every piece of information. They didn't have to do it, But it made me sad, and I hope you continue reffing and stuff because I think you're a great ref, and I've seen you ref fights, and I know that wasn't none of us should be judged on any one performance, and it is absolutely questionable whether it was a mistake or not. I think you did your job, and the job is hard.
The thing that's gotten me through it is talking to the fighters. I got a lot of nasty. I didn't know what social media trolling was until that event, and then I started getting a lot of nasty messages, threats, and my family got threatened, and so
Can you believe that people doing that?
Yeah,
and besides that, the big thing people forget is they have the hindsight, right? Yes. This guy was okay. He was fine after this. They said his arm was dislocated. They popped it in, and it was okay.
Yeah, the doctor was cool. He came back. The doctor said. He came up to me and said, hey, great job. It was hyperextended. I fixed it. He's good to go.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he fought a couple months later and won.
So man, for people to make death threats toward you and your family.
Yeah.
Oh my God. People are rough.
Yeah, exactly. But the fighters got me through it because talking to Anthony and Willie and some of the other fighters I know, they were all like, yeah, you better not stop that if it's me. I can fight through that. And that was the mentality I have. I've trained with fighters and I've been in jiu-jitsu matches and I know that I always think that I can still win this. And so that was if anything comes of it, that's the only thing I was thinking. What can I do to give this kid the best chance to win?
Right.
And it got to a point where I realized, no, he can't do it. So I stopped the fight.
Right. And that's the other funny thing about, when you look at how fights end, it's a strange thing because as a ref, this is an adult man. He can make his own fucking decisions as a fighter. So if he wants out, he just has to say pretty much anything.
Yes, exactly.
And it's done. You really, even in jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of tournaments where you can't make a sound.
Exactly.
If you make a sound, that's a verbal tap. Anything, whatever. And in this case, you know, he had the ability to say, I'm done. Because he didn't, then you have to make like a call for him, and that's very strange. And the times that we've sort of allowed for refs to step in and do that is a TKO in which that fighter can't really stop it for themselves because they're getting rained on, and you don't have the ability to stop it, and so that's where the ref kind of is there to protect you. But in a submission, different thing, isn't it? You know, it is tap, snap, or nap. You know, it's your decision.
And it's amazing is that at that moment, everything was in slow motion.
Yeah.
I could see what was happening, and so I'm visually I'm looking for a tap.
Yeah.
And verbally I'm listening for him to say tap, and I'm also thinking if, like you said, if he screams out in any way, I'm stopping it. Yeah, I'm stopping it, and nothing had happened. And he was really cool because he tweeted afterwards that, hey, stop bagging on the ref. It was my choice, and I didn't do anything. I wanted to continue. So
you're truly damned if you do and damned if you don't as a ref.
And that's what I was saying is that if I'd have stopped it when his arm hyperextended, what would everybody be saying? You stopped it too early. Why'd you stop it?
And it'd be the same thing.
Yes,
it'd be the same,
exactly.
the death threats and all the bullshit.
Yeah.
And beyond that, I mean, you watch the fight with Tony Ferguson and Charles Oliveira. Is that not the one where so you're watching Tony Ferguson's arm completely hyperextend. I don't know how he was okay after that. I really don't. Yeah. I think this is the fight I'm making reference. I believe that was.
Sure. I know Tony Ferguson was.
Yeah. And so you're really watching his arm completely hyperextend, and imagine calling it in that moment, because they still had a lot of fighting left to do.
Oh yeah.
Just because you think that's hyperextended.
Yeah, because I think that's bad for him. You know, it's a bad. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's double jointed, and he really is.
Yes.
I mean, he legitimately is in that way. So to withstand that, oof. Or even you know what? The most recent one was oh god, shit. It's the Australian dude, and I can't remember his name, and it was Brian Ortega.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so Brian Ortega, I think twice in that fight, had I wish I knew the Australian's guy's name. I can't think of it at all. Had him in fully locked in submissions. One of them is a guillotine from mount. It is tight as hell, and he fought his way out of it.
Oh yeah.
And so imagine taking that decision away from the fighter in that moment.
And that's my big thing is I want, in any sport I referee, I want the players to decide the outcome.
It's even different when you're reffing high school stuff. These are grown men.
Yes, getting paid.
They can make their own decision about when they're done or not. And this is their career at stake. And yeah, man. Well, I'm glad we talked about it a little bit. I'm really glad to have you.
The funniest thing was a black belt, a jiu-jitsu black belt I was talking to. A friend of mine, and he'd said he was talking to me right after the fight, and he's like, and I always ask, well, what's your opinion? What do you think? And he said, I think you should have stopped it. And I said, let me just put it in this guy. If that was you in the U.S. Open Jiu-Jitsu tournament, and I'm refereeing, and you have your arm, and I see it start to hyperextend, and I stop it, he goes, well, I'm going to be pissed. I said, okay, never mind. I understand. Yeah. You want every opportunity, it's different than those guys who got kicked and their leg gets broken. That's different. You recognize that, and they scream out in pain, and
they can't stand up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very little you can do after that.
But I've learned from it. I think it's disheartened me a little bit because of some of the bigger people who criticize me. Instead of taking a second, asking me, nobody's ever asked me. No, nobody. Just take a second and say, hey, what was going on? And then if I explain it, then tell me what you think. That's cool. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that comes again from media reporting.
Exactly.
In totally irresponsible ways. And then taking one side of the story and running with it because they've got their hot take. They've got their slam. Oh, that guy slammed that guy.
Yep.
Let's
Everybody always wants to make the statement that's going to be the headline,
Well, I think it's I find it very brave of anybody who is willing to make tough decisions in the moment, because it is super easy for all the rest of us who I have very few things where I'm the guy making the tough call in the moment. I'm not a heart surgeon watching someone code on the table. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be that person. Yeah. And again, that's so funny to make a correlation between that and like reffing a sports game.
Yeah.
But my point is, anybody who has to make a very tough decision that has real ramifications for multiple people in the moment, the rest of us are really all on the sidelines looking in hindsight and going, well, you shouldn't have done that, you know? And it's a problem. But again, among the many things jiu-jitsu can help an individual achieve, it takes you off the sideline in a major way in your life, and you are in the fight, and you learn how to have, I think, more compassion for other people because you know what it's like to fight.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a difference there.
Yeah.
It changes you. Yeah. Well, anyway, screw those people because you're still one of my favorite people to roll with.
I appreciate it.
Will be, so
thank you.
It's been great being back at 10th Planet and training here. And man, we've picked up so much this year. You know, and I started coming to the fundamentals because Andrea comes, and even if I don't have a partner that day and I just get to watch, I'm still picking up a ton. And when there's new guys, like always send me the new guy. It's so much fun for me to help somebody and show them.
And I appreciate that. I mean, that you stepping up to say, yeah, I'll help this guy, because that's hard to do. I mean,
your first day in here is
we had a new person in class today, and he knows nothing, you know, and it's jiu-jitsu is hard to teach people because it involves things that most people will never do in their life. You know, whatever you want to say, being on your back with another human being trying to submit you is not the easiest thing in the world.
You can go simpler than that.
Oh, yeah.
You can take any group of 10 random people out on the street right now and tell them, be on your feet and then do a somersault and then get back to your feet.
Yes.
And they won't be able to do it. You know,
yeah, exactly.
It comes down to basic physical tasks too, that all of a sudden you change but yeah, I just remember my first day and I remember coming in and I had a great first day because it's what I needed and it's not what everybody needs. But my first day, I took a class and then I was thrown into the Shark Tank, and that was fun for me because I knew after that I was going to have, there goes our GoPro. I knew that I was going to be in for it, and I was already aware of that coming in, and so that was fine with me. But I also get when you come in and maybe we shouldn't attack you your first day.
Yeah.
You know
I know.
And you're more likely to hurt somebody your first day because you're just swinging arms and legs and elbows everywhere. And
well, even sometimes that first few weeks when you learn a little, you're the most dangerous because you want to try that out on people, and you don't really know what you're doing, but you're going to try it out. And it's like, you know, the old spazzy white belt that you hear about all the time.
Yeah, that does happen.
Yes,
it does happen. But you know, if you're nervous to try jiu-jitsu, I think we both encourage anybody to get into it. You and I both came into it at very different ages and different stages of life and for different reasons, and it's affected both of us. And you know, Andrea had a nice perspective yesterday having Chris and Kyle and Adam on the podcast. I usually end up talking with gym owners and black belts and really higher up guys, and we get into all these concepts. It was really fun yesterday just to have a bunch of purple belts and a blue belt sitting at a table, the guys that are in the shit every day, you know, dealing with it, just to have some of that perspective too. So
you got Adam, and he's got that great British accent.
Oh yeah,
and he's got
a voice for radio.
Oh my gosh,
got a face for radio too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam. Man, I've really been picking on him. I don't know why. It's just because he laughs when I make fun of him, and so I just keep going.
Oh yeah,
he should tell me to fuck off, and then I'd never make fun of him again. Probably.
But that British accent saves him because he'll say something, and all the girls will turn. Yeah,
it does. It does. That was the focus of a good chunk of the conversation last night. I was trying to understand, what are you saying?
What are you saying?
What is that? What does that slang mean? It's a lot of fun, and he's got a bunch of experiences traveling and doing jiu-jitsu all over the world too.
Oh yeah.
And it's different in the UK where he's done it before, and he's told me about some of that. So I look forward to the day when I can go internationally do some jiu-jitsu. You know, that'll be a lot of fun. Have you gotten international with your jiu-jitsu yet?
The trips that I've taken, the cruises, and then last year going to Cancun for my jiu-jitsu vacations. Grappler's Escape is the name of the company that runs them, and it's an international experience because people from all over the world come to that vacation, and I'm rolling all kinds of people that I would never have met if I didn't do jiu-jitsu. And it's so cool. Just to see that the high level black belts who come to attend and teach, you know, where else would I get to meet these folks and actually roll with them? get humiliated by them, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's such a cool thing. And we've become a family, you know, because this will be my 5th one. And so now I look forward to seeing these folks that I don't see for a year, just like you.
Just
you
like
know?
us. Yeah.
It's the same thing, and it's so cool. And because Jiu-Jitsu is a community, a lifestyle of its own, and it just brings people together. You know, we get on the mat and we beat the crap out of each other, and then we shake hands, go out drinking or whatever. You know.
Yeah. It's a truly like the travel goes hand in hand with it. Hey, Andrea, can you come get some photos for me? The traveling goes hand in hand with it because you can only get better if you are traveling to all these different places, and so that becomes sort of like just a part of the story, you know. And so, you know, even for someone who lives in just one town and they're only going to train at their one gym, which I think is, again, it's fine.
Yeah.
You will find people coming into that gym who it's like, oh, this guy's from across the country to train here.
Yes.
Because there's only one way to get better, and that's by actually traveling.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
even if you're the one who, you know, even if you don't have the chance to be the one doing that, you get the benefit of it just by going to any gym.
Yeah.
People like me will roll
even if it's just going up for us up to Phoenix, because there's some great gyms up in Phoenix, some great instructors up there, and I've been up there a bunch of times, and I may not see them for months, but we're like family. When we do see each other, it's just like we never met, you know. And it's like, when are you coming back? You know, so I don't know. It's like the coolest thing. So yeah.
So if you haven't gotten into jiu-jitsu, I think our point is give it a shot.
Well, give it a shot. Absolutely, yeah.
Go for whatever is going to make you a better person, a tougher person, you know, able to handle the world and yourself better, and get into it. Okay, so Bullpen, go find that and watch it. Al, what is your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is Al Guinee, all together, no periods, dots, slashes. Yep, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Drop me a note, you know.
Go find him, say hey.
Yeah, hey.
Stop saying mean stuff to Al.
No mean stuff.
No mean
There's
stuff.
enough mean stuff in the world.
There's plenty of mean stuff.
Yes.
Go be mean to somebody else if you need to be mean. Or come to the gym and be mean.
Yes.
Get your mean out and then go home and calm the fuck down. That's what the gym is for.
Yes.
Well, as always, I will post pictures and link up to Al in the episode. If you have... Andrew's looking at me and it threw me off badly. Oh, I'm going to wrap it up before the camera dies. Yes, we're going to wrap it up before the camera dies. You can always find me, as always, at DHicksInLife. And thanks very much for listening. As always, we will see you on the next episode.